Hey everyone, Calibre here. Welcome back. We're all looking for that edge in our lives, that means of achieving success that is beyond the ordinary, but achievable nonetheless. Well, one way I've found, especially in my professional life, to get that edge is to apply lessons learned from what I've read, even from fictional characters. No, I'm not talking about outlandish things like X-ray vision, super healing, or mind control. I'm talking about changes of mindset, learning hacks, and basically putting yourself in the best position to solve problems. And the best example of this is one of my favorite fictional characters growing up, Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. In case you don't know, Sherlock Holmes was a courageous, brilliant, and eccentric British private eye, and his stories were generally about the mysteries and cases he would solve with his companion Dr. Watson. But the most memorable thing about him was his observational mind, his memory, imagination, and the power of his deductive reasoning. It was like a superpower, a means for him to solve crimes and mysteries and catch the bad guys the ordinary man could not. Well, I'm here to tell you that if you're disciplined, you too can use the powers of observation and deductive reasoning to dismantle your opponents, whether in a debate, negotiation, or really any intellectual challenge you might face. Now, I'm not saying that we can all be at the level of Sherlock Holmes. He is a fictional character after all. But there are many lessons to be learned, and if you can apply it like I did to some degree, I believe those lessons can help you tremendously in all aspects of your life. So this episode will be a high-level summary of a book, which I think is an excellent primer on how you can apply this mindset to your own life. And that book is Mastermind, How to Think Like Sherlock Holmes, and this book is by Maria Konnikova. I would recommend you get and read Mastermind in its entirety to get the full benefit because it's quite detailed and worthy of a close study. It gives you a holistic view of the entire system of thinking and problem solving that made it seem like Holmes had superpowers. But for our more simplified purposes here, I'm going to break it down into 3 actionable and doable stages. Stage 1 is called observation. Like Sherlock Holmes, we start by keenly observing our surroundings and gathering information. Remember, there's a difference between seeing and observing. Seeing is the mindless intake of information that requires no thought and no active review. On the other hand, observing is something completely different and requires 3 things: mindfulness, motivation, and practice. Mindfulness means presence of mind in the here and now, not the future, not the past, not your phone, not your friends, literally nothing else other than what you're observing right now in your environment and in your own mind. It is the opposite of going with the flow, like a mindless routine. Human brains are not built for multitasking. In fact, multitasking precludes mindfulness altogether. In our society, we suffer from a host of passive, mindless habits like social media, doom scrolling, and non-educational, non-relational activities. But to be observant like Sherlock Holmes is to engage in an accurate and systematic examination of everything that comes your way, not only external cues, but also your inner thoughts. When we actually observe, we're forced to pay attention, moving our brains from passive absorption to active awareness. This is an affirmative choice that must be made, the choice to be mindful and completely present in the moment. Secondly, we need motivation, which means active engagement and desire. It might be obvious, but motivated subjects always outperform unmotivated ones, and success usually comes from deep motivation. Without the motivation to be present in the moment without distraction, a person simply won't be able to reach the same level as someone who is. And the third element, to observe like Sherlock Holmes, is practice, and tons of it. Not much to say here, but anyone who becomes an expert at any skill requires years of practice, and this is no different. And with practice, it becomes a habit for life that's always on, with increasingly less effort. So step 2 is imagination. And now once you've collected your observations, you may think it's time to go directly into the process of deductive analysis. But that's actually incorrect. In fact, the process of imagination must occur before actual deduction. Why is this? Because imagination takes the stuff you've gained through observation and recombines it into something new, into the range of possibilities that you will consider, test, and retest during the analysis stage. Think of it like a mental sandbox where you can manipulate your observations, combine them with your experiences and knowledge, and put those results together in novel ways to come up with all the possibilities. In society, we place emphasis and value on computer-like intellect, the linear and the certain. We don't like risks. We like predictability and planning. But the hallmark of an imaginative mind is of openness to possibilities and a lack of fear regarding failure. It is the ability to make connections that are not entirely obvious between elements that may appear disparate at first. Imagination requires novelty, unpredictability, and the untested. Most people don't want to go there because it's uncomfortable and uncertain. Imagination is what sets the stage for deduction at the highest level, to answer the most important question, which is, out of all the possibilities imagined, which one best explains all the facts? Then you'll be able to move on to the third stage, deduction. In this final stage, everything has been gathered and the possibilities have been considered. All that remains now is to use your deductive reasoning to make logical inferences and draw conclusions. But what exactly is deductive reasoning? Put simply, deductive reasoning is a logical approach where you progress from general ideas to specific conclusions. Put another way, it's the process of looking for patterns, inconsistencies, and potential connections between pieces of information. In other words, connecting the dots. So there are 3 steps to the process of deductive reasoning. 1. Gather all of your relevant observations, all of them without exception, and put them in order. 2. Reach a statement that must be necessarily true based upon the facts. And 3. If more than one explanation is possible, test each one until one of them emerges as having the most convincing amount of support. The ultimate goal is to reach the best single cohesive conclusion that makes sense of the full picture. This is where one of Sherlock Holmes's most famous lines was born. When you have eliminated all which is impossible, then whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. But the point is not simply to get there. How we get to our ultimate conclusion is just as important. We don't gloss over, we don't skip steps, we don't ignore inconvenient truths, but we don't add more information than necessary either. We don't simply accept initial intuitions or first impressions. We go at our own pace and reach our own conclusion in a systematic way, considering all alternatives, avoiding bias and overconfidence, sifting the crucial from the incidental, the improbable from the impossible, until we reach the best answer available. And even when we get there, we don't stop when it's good enough. We exhaust possibilities and go beyond our instincts until there is nothing more to consider. So in conclusion, thinking like Sherlock Holmes isn't simply a matter of showing up. We make a conscious decision and then make a considered effort to make a habit of being mindful in the moment. Then we imagine the possibilities and analyze them like the great detective himself. With practice, I have no doubt this technique will help you overcome any opponent you face, because I can tell you it's helped me greatly in my life. Until next time, everyone. Peace.